I'm Zoe Delahunty-Light, and it seems that around every corner there's yet another thing in Dragon's Dogma 2 that just makes my RPG-addicted self incredibly happy. From how you interact with your pawns to forgeries, because yes, that's a thing, these are just some of the ways that Dragon's Dogma 2 has ruined other RPGs for me. Starting off with pawns, as well as them saving my squishy archer self multiple times in battle, there's just enough depth to them to make me compare them to other companions I've had in RPGs, like a very toxic parent of sorts. Seriously though, just the small detail of high-fiving pawns after defeating a tough enemy, or having them catch you when you fall, are the kind of small behavioural details that just make them feel more whole. Dialogue is all very well, especially when one reprimands the other for sitting down on the job.
What are you doing? We've not been given leave to rest yet.
I'm well aware of that, thank you.
But following up with these admittedly small details cements pawns as being much more than your usual video game companion. I'm afraid I'm going to compare everyone to them from now on, so I'm sorry. Death is a necessary part of Dragon's Dogma 2, especially with the amount of mini-bosses who just can't get enough of the Arisen. Having been vanquished, mini-bosses in video games usually just despawn after a time. Not in Dragon's Dogma 2. I came across the carcass of an ogre I had fought days past, and it was rotting, complete with exposed flesh and flies buzzing around it. While it was kind of gross at first, I remain a fan of this visceral method of despawning. Much like the pawn's behaviour, this is a detail that makes Dragon's Dogma 2 feel more coherently realised, much like the hearthbuds, apples and flowers that wither and decay when they've been in my backpack for too long. Forgeries are hands down my favourite thing in Dragon's Dogma 2, as I was myself both the player and the played, thanks to this unique store. Scrap stores sell items you've dropped, namely important ones you might need later on, such as quest-related documents, and do forgeries. Give them an item, pay the price, and the chap behind the counter will create a forgery of it. Not a perfect one, but one decent enough to fool most NPCs, and myself. Fairy stones are fast token travels essentially, and are pretty hard to come by and expensive, so when I saw one for sale at the scrap shop, I snapped it up. I did not notice the misspelling. Fairy stone with an I instead of fairy stone with a Y. I bought a knockoff pebble that does absolutely nothing for 10,000 gold and got scammed. If forgeries are done right, trying to focus on the positive here, you can get reward money twice when someone's seeking a precious object. Or you can slip an NPC a forgery of the useful and important item they bestowed upon you temporarily. And of course, as a dodgy shop down a dark alley, they also sell weirdly realistic Beastren masks to go over the border into Batal, though that hasn't worked for me yet. Ever log into a game after days, weeks, or months and just have no clue what you're meant to be doing? Yeah, me too. If you undergo that sabbatical from Dragon's Dogma 2, just seek out an oracle. These seers will tell you what it is you're meant to be doing in more detail than your quest log, which is also mighty handy when you're just plain stuck. Dragon's Dogma 2 doesn't hold your hand, so having this oracle option when you need a prod in the right direction is one hell of a relief. Speaking of the lack of hand-holding, Dragon's Dogma 2's quests do, on occasion, especially side quests, force you to rely on your own lateral thinking skills. Instead of linear thinking, where you go to a waypoint that exactly marks where a boy has disappeared to, for example, you have to quiz the citizens that saw him last, and use that information and what you know about the surrounding area to figure out where he ran off to. Another time, I had to follow a beggar around to figure out how he made his money, and I had to watch this guy all day. No shortcuts, no time skipping in case he wandered off, just patience. Unfortunately, this is an aspect that's lost in most video games, as patience can be seen as an inconvenience to the player, with pressure to have them, or us to be honest, always entertained. Hence the prompts to wait until a certain time of day, or NPC behaviour altering once a quest is active. I loved that Dragon's Dogma 2 has chosen to do things differently, and it's refreshing to actually have to think for myself for once, something I don't think I do very often. Dragon's Dogma 2's enemies have their own quirks that surprised, and when it comes to goblins specifically, insulted me. They've laughed at me more than once for getting hit especially hard, and talk about adding insult to injury, though I have also seen my pawns absolutely chuck them across the landscape when they attack me out of nowhere. Saurians hide flat against rock walls within caves, blending in without really trying before they ambush me and my pawns, or snooze on the beach when they think enemies are too far away to be of any bother. I've also come across Cyclops dozing as well, but this one had quite a rude awakening.
Look at it. The beast can scarce stand. A well-placed strike to send it gazing skyward.
Strike fast and true, and our quarry shall fall.
I've run across bridges that have been destroyed midway by bandits or goblins, or surprised by goblins hiding behind rocks or in tall grass, either leaving me stranded in a 1v a lot of enemies on the other side of the chasm, or at the bottom of a canyon/river, both encounters leaving me completely divorced from my pawns and all my weapons. At one point I was warned that some monsters have a penchant for picking up women and carrying them around, which did actually end up happening to me before they tried to literally bite my head off, which I did find less annoying than the other forms of incapacitation in Dragon's Dogma 2, like just sleeping. Dragon's Dogma 2 is a real-time, no fast travel challenge thanks to those ferry stones I mentioned earlier. Unless you find an ox cart heading in the right direction, each ferry stone, bar the ones you loot from corpses, costs 10k gold each, so I never use them lightly. A natural consequence of this is that I have explored Dragon's Dogma 2 incredibly thoroughly on foot, finding hidden chests and villages that I otherwise would not have stumbled upon. I do think there could be more quests out in the wild aside from the occasional wandering NPC escort quest, but I still find travelling by foot rewarding enough not to bore me, yet. With more time with Dragon's Dogma 2, this opinion of mine may change, but, for now, the scarcity of ready fast travel methods is novel, and I like it. And finally, speaking of NPCs, praise the gods above that escorting NPCs don't have a piddly health bar that stresses me the hell out whenever we get into a scrap on the road. Plus the fact that in order to get into the jail without anyone noticing you and attacking you because you're in your normal clothes, you have to disguise yourself as a knight so no one questions your presence there. Which isn't something that the game spells out for you, and I actually had to find out on my own, but again, it's this lack of hand-holding and these little details that mean Dragon's Dogma 2 has ruined other RPGs for me. And that is 8 ways Dragon's Dogma 2 has ruined other RPGs for me. Do you have any that you've noticed? I know a lot of people are enjoying the slapstick comedy of some of the boss encounters, and also them launching themselves towards you like this, so do let me know, and I have many more of these up my sleeve as well, and plenty more to say and show you about Dragon's Dogma 2. Thanks so much for choosing to spend your time with me, and now I'm going to go and build a Sphinx altar, because I am utterly obsessed with her, so I'll see you lot next time.